Number 9 BYU takes down Miami 72-62 here at Walt Disney World in the ESPN Events Invitational. Mitch Harper with KSLSports.com on this Thanksgiving Day as the Cougs feasted on a victory to improve to 5-1 overall on the season. And it was a big day for the Cougars as Cougar Nation showed up in droves to this game at State Farm Fieldhouse. Keep in mind, this isn't the venue that was the host to the NBA championships in 2020. I think there were some games played here, but it wasn't the NBA finals. That's just down the road here at the ESPN Wide World of Sports here in Kissimmee. But it was an energetic crowd for Cougar Nation. You would have never thought that BYU was not the team that was not from the state of Florida and Miami. The local team, just 4 hours away down south, they had really no presence compared to BYU. Quite a turnout from Cougar Nation to show up for this nationally ranked BYU team that continues to look every bit the part as one of the best teams in college basketball this year. And it was a big day for Kennard "Moo" Davis, who made his return to the lineup after a 2-game suspension. Moo was cleared by BYU to return to action today, and it was a big day for Moo as he put up a game-high 18 points for the Cougars, led all scorers in this game, and he was outstanding from three-point range. 4 of 7 from beyond the arc, 7 of 10 from the field. He had a three with about 16 minutes ago. I think it was the 15:55 mark in the second half that was the catalyst behind BYU going off on a 13-1 run, and BYU was off to the races from there. But that corner three from Moo was a big one for the Cougars, put them in front, and then they were off and running from there. BYU's big three, A.J. DeBonsa, Rob Wright, and Richie Saunders, they combined for 41 points in this game. Kind of pedestrian by their standards. Typically, they're a group that could go off for 60. Heck, they could, I mean, the ceiling is endless with those guys in terms of their offensive output. Miami was pretty physical with A.J. early on in the first half. They had True Washington defending A.J. quite a bit, but over the course of the game, BYU started to wear out Miami, and BYU, their demeanor in the first half was kind of in question by head coach Kevin Young. Young noted it in the post-game press conference that assistant coach John Linehan pointed to BYU's demeanor kind of lacking in the game, and they turned the corner in the second half, and I think that was led by Keba Keita. Defensive masterclass from the senior center for the Cougars. Keita was outstanding. You look at the stat line, 6 points. Okay, I mean, that's typical Keba Keita stuff. 2 of 2 from the field, just cleaning up around the hoop. But then 10 rebounds. That's typical Keba Keita stuff. 7 blocked shots. In the first 7 minutes of the second half, he had 4 blocked shots. 4 of those 7 were in the opening minutes. So when this team got challenged with their demeanor, Keba Keita once again set the tone with that demeanor being one that's physical and imposing. He noted in the postgame presser, all he wants to do is get wins, and that reflected with the way he played on the defensive end. He was brilliant today for BYU. You look at some of the numbers for the Cougars in this game. Only 7 players had more than 10 minutes in this game for the Cougars, and I bring that up because one of those 7, guy that had 14 minutes, Dawson Baker, shot maker, he goes down with an injury in the second half, and your heart kind of sinks when that happened for Dawson, because everyone knows in Cougar Nation how much Dawson has navigated injuries in his BYU career, and he suffers an injury, has to be helped off the floor by teammates Jared McGregor, Brody Kozlowski. Unfortunate scene. You could tell it was emotional, and Kevin Young didn't have a specific update on Dawson Baker after the game, but he expressed his thoughts and prayers for Dawson, because Dawson's a big piece to this BYU team, and to not have him, that's significant for this squad, because again, you only had 7 guys that go over 10 minutes, and he's one of them. Now that tightens up the rotation significantly. When you got Kennard Davis back, you thought, okay, BYU's got its full collection of guys, minus Nate Pickens, who's still out for the season, of course. But having Dawson Baker out's significant, and that's going to be something to monitor for the Cougars going forward. Moments after his injury, and he went to the locker room, saw Brian Santiago go to the locker room. I think he brought Dawson's wife and family, close ones that were here in the building. tough scene. So we'll see what happens there long term for Dawson Baker, but an unfortunate situation to see him go down with an injury, because once again, all the injuries that he's navigated in his BYU career, you wanted to see him be able to go through this season, an excellent BYU team with a clean bill of health, because he's a guy that can get a bucket, and that goes out the door as he went down with an injury today in that win over Miami. Some other areas that caught my attention in this game: offensive rebounds. Miami had a lot of success early in this game, but still ended up out-rebounding on the offensive glass BYU 15-9. That's an area where BYU has to clean up. There were a handful of missed free throws. I think they had 2, Miami did, where they got the offensive rebound. Can't have that. BYU's got to do a better job of cleaning up on the defensive glass for the Cougars. BYU did out-rebound Miami on the defensive rebounds 33-24, but limit those second chance opportunities. I thought BYU did a nice job in the second half in particular of limiting Miami's ability to get to the rim. You know, coming into this game, I think Miami was 309th nationally in three-point field goal attempts per game. They didn't want to shoot the three. They shot a lot in the first half, which kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. Miami goes 5 of 22 from beyond the arc. So BYU defensively, I thought, did a really nice job defending the three when Miami did turn to that shot. BYU on the flip side shooting the three, 9 of 19. You'll take that every single night. That's really efficient stuff, almost hovering around 50% was the Cougars. I really like what Rob Wright did tonight. 17 points, 4 assists. You know, he had 11 assists in the game against Wisconsin. You'd like to see that assist number go up a little bit higher, but I thought Rob Wright continues to be just an excellent playmaker. And I thought the spacing, there were some plays where Wright found a wide open Richie Saunders. Saunders then makes the extra pass to Dominique Diamande, who had a big 3 in the first half. So there were some good minutes, I thought, from this BYU team, and I thought that they played well, exceptionally well, in that second half for this group to get that win over an ACC team from a Miami squad that I think is going to be much improved this year under Jay Lucas, first-year head coach for the Hurricanes. And speaking of Jay Lucas, his father, John Lucas II, saw him floating around. He was sitting courtside at the game, but pre-game, he went and embraced A.J. DeBonsa. They had a moment. He was talking with Brian Santiago. So John Lucas II, a well-known guy in the world of basketball at large. That the Lucas family is one of the great family names in the sport of basketball. But Miami, I think, is going to be a win that holds up well for BYU this season. It wouldn't shock me if that ends up being a quality victory for the Cougars this season. I also like the contributions in the game from Hadim and Boop. Boop, I thought, continues to give quality minutes off the bench because Keita dealt with a little bit of foul trouble. First half, he goes out with 2 fouls, about 8:30 left in the first half. Boop steps in. I thought he did a really nice job for the Cougars. He had 6 total rebounds in the game and 17 minutes of action. So he's just an effort, relentless guy. I think he brings that quite a bit for this BYU team. BYU will be back in action on Black Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time tip-off, 7:30 in the Mountain Time Zone. Pre-game on KSL NewsRadio will begin at 6:30, so no Cougar Tracks on KSL NewsRadio tomorrow. You'll still have Cougar Tracks on the audio podcast feed and KSL Sports YouTube. But the Cougs look to get a MTE championship, the first one in 2 years. Remember, they won that one in Vegas a couple years back in the final season under Mark Pope. But Kevin Young's squad looking for their first MTE title. They'll face the winner of Georgetown or Dayton here in this game. But again, the crowd snapshot, it's going to be feeling like a BYU home game when the Cougs tip it off here tomorrow night in Kissimmee, Florida, for a chance to win the ESPN Events Invitational. And then we see how far this team can continue to go with this non-conference schedule that was pretty loaded up by Kevin Young and his staff. That's going to do it for this post-game reaction here from Florida. As again, the Cougs get it done, 72-62 over the Miami Hurricanes. They're now 5-1 on the season. Full post-game reaction on KSLSports.com.